the neighbor drives by and he's like, quick, bring your dogs inside the house. There's a bear loose in the neighborhood.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the Jeff Heilman Project. We're about a week away from Christmas and we got an awesome present for you. We have Felix with us. We go way back. She actually was introduced to us, or she introduced us to Tyler, who was on the last episode.
Yep, I remember she introduced us. It was in November of 2005 and I was at Costco, and Ella did a three-way call to introduce us. And it was the first time that I ever talked to Tyler. And we just cut an episode with Tyler just a little bit ago.
And we met Ella through church,
We
right?
met Ella through the CEO club at Jubilee in the big house.
Wow, yeah. So it's pretty awesome. Ella is not only, as you can see, for those of you watching YouTube, next on Friday, first comes out audio, and then it goes on to video.
This will be on a Tuesday.
But she's got just the most joyful smile, and she's got the cutest little dimples, and she's a spit cracker. What do you say? Spitfire firecracker.
Yeah.
And always just lights up the room in everything that she does.
And how tall are you, Ella? You're like 5'2", 5'1"?
Like 4'10"
I was going to say less than
4'10" and a half.
Go down
yeah,
a little
4'10" and a half. Yeah, so
bit.
she is a lot of fire in a small package.
And you guys we talk here on the podcast often about like reinventing yourself and entrepreneurship, and you guys did a major shift a few years back where you're like, we're done. We're gonna go all in. We're gonna uproot ourselves, from West Coast to East Coast, and so we just really admire you. I saw the thread through the text between all of us. I was busy, but I saw the thread, and you're like, what would I talk about? And I don't know why would I be on your show? And it's like, no, you're exactly what we like to talk about, and the exact type of person we want to talk about, because you're actually doing the stuff.
And
that
is
is
stuff.
So admirable.
Ministry,
Ella.
business,
Good job.
child raising, wifing.
Oh my gosh.
Uprooting,
saying you're going to do something and doing it,
and actually executing on it. So I'll jump in and just say that Ella Felix is a shining, bright white light that you're almost like, oh my gosh, she's so bright and pure and happy and uplifting all the time that it's sometimes it's intimidating to be around somebody that's that positive after they've been through as much difficulty and trials in business and successes and everything. And she's just done a great job. She's been a stay-at-home entrepreneur mom who's also worked some of the time, not always stay-at-home, but always a mom, always working. And you and Edwin have such a great just family dynamic, your sense of Ohana family and the extended community. I know it's not Hawaiian, but that Pacific Islander sense of community, and you guys have really welcomed us into your family as well. And I've known you and Edwin 18 years now, 18 or more, because I know I met you guys before we met Tyler, maybe 19 years. But why don't you tell us a little bit about, and we've got questions set up to prompt you a little bit, but tell us about like what is going on. You've got the Airbnb, you've got the Turo van, you've got the Amazon dropship business, you've had success in real estate, you've done personal training and fitness and worked for Disney, and Edwin's done his EMT stuff and training for not only that, but you guys have also done your CrossFit and your competitions for bodybuilding. I mean, it's really a lot of cool stuff that you've been involved in. So what are you doing now? And then we'll kind of work backwards and then work forwards and what you're doing. So we got you.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you that is quite an introduction. Thank you guys. Yes, it has been 18 plus years. I remember going to your first house in Cupertino with Callista, my second born.
Yeah.
And she was just a baby, and you guys had your 3.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and you're holding her, and you're like, oh, I miss this baby stage. And you guys went on to have 3 more?
Or more.
Four more.
I
think.
We missed it a lot.
So you really did miss it a lot. Yeah. And then you just, as you always do, you just surpassed us and kept going. And we ended on 3. You guys ended on 7?
7, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know, Andrea, I can't see you, but I only know you as Baba Ganesh. So
That's right.
I don't think they call you that anymore. It
Oh,
was
we
that,
do.
and
No,
there was
not too much.
mushy, and there was
Yep, yep.
yes. So all of that. Yeah, I remember when the kids were little. It honestly feels like yesterday. So what are we doing now? We've been in Florida for almost going on to 5 years. So that's
Wow.
Okay.
quite crazy. Yes. Got back into real estate in the last 4 months. I don't think we've talked about that.
Wow, really? Good for
But
you.
yes, yes. And I almost feel like it's comes full circle because it's back into not being an agent, but being a real estate investor, which is where all the magic started in the first place.
Yep.
So working less in the front trenches, but really being the support for the main investors, which is nice because I get to sort of glean off their wisdom and see the transactions happen and without actually putting myself in harm's way. Because I see how some of the transactions go sideways, and you really have to put a lot of pen to paper to figure things out. 'Cause it's not straightforward when you're an investor. So it's a blessing to watch them not only figure things out, but seek out other mentors. And I mean, one of them is being coached by Ryan Pineda. So it's I mean, they're like heavy hitters. They are
Yeah.
they don't hold back. Training
What
is
is that?
important.
What
So
is that?
Jeremy Miner and
What does that engagement look like? I mean, is that 20 minutes once a quarter?
oh no. So our main guy, he's only 24 years old. He's in I want to say 3 or 4 mentorship programs.
Yeah.
So no, and not just the mentorship programs. I mean, like the elite, like they get an hour times with like Jeremy Miner and some I forgot they have some PPC mentors and leadership mentors. A lot. It's a lot. So they're like heavily.
Tony Robbins does he does the platinum. He does that platinum package for mentoring, which is like 120 grand to go to every event that he does. They get one-on-one coaching with one of the top coaches. They get all their materials, all the content that they've ever done from the beginning, plus access to every conference, plus 4 or 5 other like specialty conferences. I know they have packages like that for Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. Darren Hardy does it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like super elite mastermind groups.
Super elite mastermind kind of stuff. And then you really get to see the value because although he's young, then you really get to see the wisdom and the action like just on fire. So it's a blessing to see that. Yeah. So that's what I'm doing now. I mean, the girls, we had a big year celebrating this year. We have a 16-year-old, so a brand new driver. We have the 18-year-old, a new adult, and a 21-year-old, a new buddy to drink with, I guess.
Yeah, right? Drink a buddy. Yeah.
I remember their birthdays when they turned 1, 3, and who would it be? 7?
I think we were at one of those birthday parties.
I think that's the one that was the one I was referring to. And I remember someone once telling me like, oh, one day they're going to be like 16, 18, 21. And I was like, no, they're not.
Yeah. No, that's a long time from now. That's not even close. Well, we have 3. Madeline's birthday is Friday. So we're going to have 3 over 21, which is hard to imagine. Jeffrey just turned 26. I'm like, I keep giving him a hard time. I'm like, you're closer to 30 than you are to 20. He's like, be quiet. I'm like, that's okay. You're just getting, we're the same age now.
Less than 4 years away from being 30. That is just crazy.
So I want to hear about your decision to do not little. It's not little. It was a major thing to do bodybuilding.
Yeah, man, I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary.
That since you did that? Because I'm like, that was like last year, right?
No. And I told myself that I was going to do it again on or before the 10th year. And so here we are.
Okay. Not going to happen? All right.
I don't know. I have so many other goals.
I don't know anything. Do they have age brackets or like, how does it work?
Yes. So I competed when I was about to turn 35. I was, I think, 2.5 weeks from turning 35. So they make you compete with 18-year-olds to the 34.5-year-olds, which is me.
Wow.
So yeah, I think I was the only mom up there with all the stretch marks and everything going on.
Hey.
Feeding it all these youngins, and I begged my coach. I was like, "Please put me in the masters division." It goes, "Yeah, it's that, and then it's masters, and then legends, I believe." And she goes, "Well, I could do that, but then let's just say you happen to place for a trophy level, which is the top 5. They would have to revoke it. So then you would have done all of this for naught."
Nothing. Oh my gosh.
So I was like,
What's the training process look like for that?
Great question.
Is that every day?
yeah, I was every day waking up 4 a.m, getting to the gym, only because that was the time that I could squeeze it in. As most bodybuilders or athletes will attest to, the hardest exercise of all is eating.
Oh yeah.
Eating clean, eating right. After a while, like all things, it just becomes a habit. If it wasn't tilapia, salmon, asparagus, or broccoli, it did not go in your mouth.
Wow.
Yeah,
See,
keep
honey?
it simple.
Tilapia, I'm writing it down. Tilapia, asparagus,
Salmon.
salmon, or what was the other one?
And
Broccoli.
Broccoli.
Okay.
Broccoli.
So
Well,
you have-
no, that's not true. You get a little bit of carbs in the morning, so you get a kick of, like, I think it's a quarter cup of oatmeal. And then you do that 12 weeks straight. And just now the smell of tilapia is too much. It's 10 years later, I'm still scarred. And I'm Filipino, and that's like the
You're
thing that we
still
eat. So,
scarred.
yeah, the sound of Tupperware opening, the smell of tilapia,
It's a trigger. You just start throwing
It is
up.
like, oh, I know.
I'm glad that
I know what comes next.
I'm glad you bring that up because of the Filipino portion of it. I remember 10 years ago and having these conversations with you about bringing health awareness to Filipino culture. And just, I mean, I know it was like a major drag because you would have to do this because you're doing a specific thing for bodybuilding. But you and Edwin both have such a heart for seeing, you know, the diets of the majority of the Pacific Islanders and like how you really wanted to help be a voice and stand out and encourage them to not settle for the type of diet and nutrition that they had been living on for such a long time. How did what you do, did any of what you were doing or what you're even doing now, have you seen that effect into your community?
No, there was a lot of curiosity for sure. At that time, I worked for, I worked for AOL.
Mm.
Yeah, for those that are listening. AOL, just go ahead and ask your girl Siri what AOL
What
is.
is
Yeah. Tyler was just on a little bit ago, and he talked about e-circles. We were talking about e-circles, which
What
was
is
the predecessor for
Before
MySpace.
Yeah.
and
I don't
classmates.com.
even remember that. Oh no,
Long
I don't
time
remember
ago.
that.
Yeah, those are the guys that are sitting there going, I did Facebook 18 months earlier than they did, and we should have
Yeah, we
You know,
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's like, well, if you had a mobile app, if you had a smartphone community, we probably would be on MySpace right now instead of Facebook. But
if only.
Tyler got me my first MySpace account in, I want to say 2005. I could never figure out how to use it. It was so complicated. Like, this is dumb. Why would anybody do this? Now there's like 2 billion people on Facebook.
This will never catch on.
This will never catch on. This is retarded. I'm never going back to my computer again for this social media thing.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, now you got it on your mobile phone. You got
things are going full
17 different
things are
apps.
going full circle. I mean, we
Things
were
are
just
going full
talking
circle.
to Tyler
We're going to get back to tilapia and broccoli here in a minute.
community,
I guarantee you that.
about community and the importance of getting together in person and
That's right.
local fulfillment and all that stuff. So
Yeah, and he's
it's
a visionary.
definitely-
He sees stuff 10 years before it happens.
it's
I
definitely
don't
coming
understand
around.
how he does it.
So
but
back to the question, do you feel like you said you had some people were you, I'm assuming you were probably one of the only Filipino bodybuilding women, or maybe not because of where you lived.
Yeah, at the time there was not a lot. But I was following the NPC for
sure.
a while, and the other competitors, and you could see more Filipinos emerge. And I think we had a couple of champions, so
Awesome.
at trophy level. Yes. Yeah, but what I was saying was for AOL, we had to do wellness like community gatherings. And I remember going to Union City where it was something crazy. It was like 60% of people over a certain age, they all had diabetes, and it was mainly in the Filipino community. And it was just to bring awareness, like even just finding out if you had it was a big deal, because there was also a lot of pushback. Like, you don't go to the doctor unless, your head's falling off your
Yeah,
neck.
exactly.
Yeah, so it was things like that. And actually that led into more into getting into the wellness space. So fitness is a portion of the wellness space. And then I carried that forward into Disney, and I was part of the Disney wellness team. So talking about all of that, all of the awareness.
And was that
and,
training internal people, employees, right? Was employee
yeah,
fitness
so it was
versus guests?
training the cast members. Yes. So on the fitness side and also the wellness side. So smoking cessation, sleeping, of course, the diet, just bringing awareness to different conditions and ailments and things like that.
And you got to do that right in the
it.
middle of COVID.
Right in the middle of COVID. Yep.
Absolute shutdown.
That was
yeah.
The funny thing is you would think in the middle of a pandemic our team would take center spotlight, but they dismissed almost all of us except for three of them. Three people stayed on board. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I remember how stressful that was for you, because you're like, where does God have me in this? And I'm supposed to be really good, and I'm training, and I'm fit, and Disney doesn't want us anymore, and they need us more than they've ever needed us ever before. And what is going on? And I remember
it was a lot of why did you bring us out to the desert to die?
I know, exactly.
We moved all the way across the country, and 8 months later there was nothing to do. It just shut down.
Wow. Yeah,
that's right.
Wow. So what's Edwin been at? Is he still, last I heard what was he doing?
Saving people from dying.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say like EMT
health stuff.
Yes. He's still in the health space. He's doing hyperbaric chambers over in Lakeland Hospital.
Wow.
Yeah, we just did
Is that for people that scuba? They come up from scuba and they have the bends?
Right. And then they found that there's a lot more conditions that the hyperbarics treat. I mean, hearing loss, amputations, diabetic ulcers, radiation burns, things that if there was enough blood supply and oxygen, your own body could heal itself. So it kind of just needed that kickstart. And
I've even seen, not that, and I'm not promoting anything by any means, but I believe that I have seen that for autism even.
That is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. They
that
have
if your
found
brain gets enough
benefits
oxygen.
Even dementia, they've found that it can help slow and reverse the signs of dementia, it's just wild. But yeah, insurance companies won't allow it, so you'd have to privately get it. But there is a lot of benefits. You're right, Jessica.
Wow,
that's so cool.
To it.
I mean, it sounds like while you were questioning, I mean, you guys had family, friends, you had your whole community and network here. And you moved on faith. You leapt and you moved.
Why did you move? Let's double click on that.
Why did we move? I think it's always been in my heart to move out to Florida. We had 4 families living in California, and then 3 of them up and left to Orlando in the 90s, and we were the last family standing.
Oh, wow.
And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but in the Filipino community, like you travel like in tribes, like you just don't, you're never like the lone wolf.
No, I think Caucasian people could learn a lot from watching. And we live in a very interesting area of the country here, as is Orlando. Orlando really, for the most part, shouldn't exist, except for the fact that Walt Disney was looking for a chunk of dirt to expand an East Coast-based area of theme park. And I don't know what the history of Orlando is prior to Disney, but it's that vision, and I'm not giving him single-handed credit for it, but that vision of flying over the swamp of uncultivated, worthless land in the middle of the state with mosquitoes and bugs and snakes and gators. And he flies over this and he's like, that's where I'm going to put the theme park. And all of a sudden, now, 50 years later, it's got the busiest airport, I think number 3 or number 4 busiest airport in the world, one of the fastest growing MSAs in the world. They've got billions of dollars of income coming in every month from tourism and all of the ancillary stuff. I mean, the helicopter rides that you get that are outside the park from these guys that have helicopter businesses on every corner flying over the park and over the areas. It's unbelievable to see what Orlando has become in such a short period of time, and for the most part really shouldn't exist. And Silicon Valley, I would say there's no necessarily any reason why we're as diverse a community as we are, except that it's got Stanford, it's got the tech community, it's got Moffett Field, it's got Lockheed, it's got Intel.
It started with Moffett Field and NASA coming out and like needing a West Coast base.
We've got friends, neighbors, relatives who are mainland Chinese that speak Mandarin. Some speak Cantonese. Some are Cambodian. Some are from Burma. Lots and lots of Filipino. Lots and lots of Vietnamese. Lots of South Korea representation, and that's just one tiny part of the globe.
Don't forget India.
When you look at India, has a huge constituency, both northern and southern, and complete with restaurants and
Ethiopia and
Ethiopian food.
We are quite the culture.
West Africa is represented by some of our neighbors.
when we went to Orlando in Florida, quite the culture pot.
It's very diverse in Orlando as well because of banking that's moved in and manufacturing that's moved in and everything that's come really on the backs of Disney World.
So weren't you asking her why she moved?
So, well, no, what I was saying was that it makes
Wait,
sense.
what was the question?
It makes sense to me that you would try to be that tribal, follow in the footsteps. And also it's for your daughters being able to grow up around family, around people that they're related to. And we did the same thing. It's just that we moved around the country looking for part of our tribe that would work. And we found that basically Jessica's grandparents here in San Jose, who had never moved, were the closest thing that we could find to that. So.
Hey everybody, this is Jessica. I'm so excited to offer to you this new service and this ability that you have to text in your questions, comments. Maybe you have some situations that you'd love for Jeff and Jessica to try to tackle along with you. You can text us now at 203-646-1472. Your phone carrier may have standard rates that apply, it being a text, but this is a free service from us to you in which we would like to participate with you in an ongoing conversation about how we can help and what we can possibly do for you. Looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Yeah, it's definitely that was, I mean, you harped on something that was important for us, that we wanted the girls to have, they obviously have roots in California, but we also wanted them to have roots in Florida. I mean, let's face it, California is really, really expensive to live in. So they can always go quote unquote home to California. But if they don't want to, spend their entire life, trying to chase that dollar, they also have Florida to call home and have a community here. Yeah. So
it's so expensive. I don't even know what it would be like to have gas that wasn't $5.80 a gallon. I can't even imagine what that would be like.
$2.89 this morning, my friend. Come on down.
$2.89, man. That and a minivan will get you across the country for pennies.
Whenever
on
we
the
go
dollar.
whenever we go to a different state, we just stand there and stare at the.
We're like looking,
stare at the thing as it goes ticking by.
Is this for the
wait
liter?
A minute. Yeah, wait.
Do they sell gas by the liter here?
What's happening?
Maybe they're on the metric system. I don't know.
Yep, and then it stops at $30, and you're like, "Why? What's the thing broken with the pump?
God, I got it." And then you're topping off. No, it's full, sir. That's just all they charge here. Yeah.
So true. That is true. No, trust me, I get tickled pink, and I send screenshots to my family, which I'm sure they're like tired of seeing it. I'm like, it's $2. Yeah.
$60.
How much is it over there?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Florida. The history of Florida. If you take Orlando and say, okay, Orlando's kind of mid 1960s, 1970s, but if you go back, Henry Flagler, who I'm sure there's even in Orlando, the influence of Henry Flagler has propagated over. But Henry Flagler takes a boat, I think, in the late 1800s while he's one of Rockefeller's Standard Oil Board of Directors members and one of his best friends. He was basically Rockefeller's best friend was Flagler. And Flagler's like, look, dude, we got enough money. Let's live our lives. We're going to be dead someday. Let's do something fun. So he takes a boat ride and gets a private tour of, at the time, a disconnected and overgrown St. Augustine, Florida, on the coast south of Jacksonville, and falls in love with the fort and says, this is a badass place. We need a railroad here. You guys don't understand. There's all this land. It's beautiful. We don't have to go to the tropics. We're basically in the tropics, and you can get there by driving a car or a rail. And he almost single-handedly creates the railroad that goes all the way from Georgia at the border down to modern-day Miami. And he worked out a deal with the railroad to where he said, look, I'll fund the expansion of this rail on spec that someday there's going to be a need for people to live and work down here. And here's the deal that I'll give you. I'll fund the whole thing, but I want alternating parcels of land in 5-acre increments on either side of the railroad all the way down to Miami. So he owned hundreds of thousands and tens of millions of acres, all supported by the rail, all the way down the coast of Florida as early as 1890, 1895. So when he went and took his family fortune and built what is today Flagler University, which was actually a 5-star hotel on the coast there in St. Augustine, it was all on speculation. He was the only guy that did it. He did it all in cash. And then within 3 or 4 years, it was like the only place in Florida to stay if you had any means whatsoever. And then all these other things started popping up, and he's like, I want the land in Miami. That's where it's. And so he owned half of Miami for 50, 60 years and made huge contributions to the state from a expansion perspective, from the rail, from all the jobs that were created to build the railroad itself, from the different cities that would pop up along the way. If you look at Vero Beach, which is effectively the test capital of the world for new aircraft. Sikorsky helicopters based in Vero Beach. A lot of pilots that fly out of Orlando have second homes in Vero Beach. I've stayed at the hotel that Gloria Estefan has on the beach in Vero Beach, which is a fabulous boutique hotel right on the ocean. I have a friend of mine that's in Vero Beach and sells motherboards to Sikorsky helicopters. So I've spent quite a bit of time out in that part of the world while I was playing professional golf tournaments and pretending that I could make a living on tour. And to see that strip basically from Fort Lauderdale Airport, which is, I think that's a fabulous area, Daytona Beach, all the way down through Fort Lauderdale into what is the north outskirts of the metropolis of Miami. It's some of the most beautiful country. It's wild. There's all kinds of stuff that can eat you and kill you and bite you.
Have you had any crocodile or alligator incidences, Ella?
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yeah?
So behind our house, there's a pond that has alligators in it pretty frequently. So, and this one week, I don't know if it was like the Lord just messing with us. So we had recently picked up fishing as a hobby, Edwin and I.
Okay.
That's fun. I can just see you. They're going to pull you in. You're going to be Gator's dinner.
Wait, yeah. So we're
like, this one
fishing,
doesn't have any fat.
and I have one. Yeah, I have one eye on the alligator. And I'm like, okay, well, he's doing his thing over there, and it's fine. I mean, it's a big enough pond. And then we throw it in, and a fish bites, and we're pulling it in, and Edwin's recording me, and I'm like, oh, the fish!
I can only imagine.
And Edwin has his back towards the alligator, and I look over, and I'm like, the alligator. And it's making a beeline towards us. And as I pull it up, it also decides to put its feet up onto land. And then I was like, well, do we now run at this point? But because people say, or I've also said myself, that the alligators are like squirrels. Like they're more scared of you.
Not the truth.
Not this guy.
Not this guy. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Edwin quickly unhooks it because he really wanted that fish, and he keeps coming closer to us. Then he throws it back into the pond. And that was kind of funny. That was a miss too. It hits the alligator's head, and he's not even looking at the fish anymore. Now his eyes are just locked on us.
Trying to eat you guys. Yeah.
Right. And so we go fish on the other side, and he follows us. Not long after, we go back inside the house, and Edwin takes the dogs out. The neighbor drives by, and he's like, quick, bring your dogs inside the house. There's a bear loose in the neighborhood.
Oh my God.
A bear?
A bear. Yeah. So I'm like, no, there's not. There's no bear. And then then I thought about it. My youngest daughter had just told me, Mommy, I'm going to go bike around the neighborhood.
No.
Oh,
Just
no.
go. Yeah, all the mom instincts came on. I'm like, get in the car, we can go find her. Because I could just imagine, like, no one told me how big this bear is, but the fact is it's a bear and they run like 35, 40 miles per hour as if they really wanted to get you. So, and why is he doing, what is he in the neighborhood for? So we go out, we're about to get in the car, and there's the bear standing in the driveway across from us.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
What kind of bear?
It was a
Brown bear, black bear?
black bear.
Black bear, yeah. Because grizzlies don't live in. Grizzlies live in like Alaska.
It was a black
alligators,
bear.
Wow.
tigers,
So-
and bears.
Oh, let's not
my.
forget about the snakes. They got 400 kinds of snakes that can bite you.
Yeah, the week keeps going. That week, I think the next day we saw a snake eating a frog, and it took a really long time. Like it was just right on the gutter, just like, well, don't mind us. It's just National Geographic happening here.
Oh my
The
gosh.
day after that, we went fishing in Venice Beach, Florida, and I found a shark. He was dead, but he was freshly dead. A bullnose shark, is that what they're called? The bull
Yep.
shark?
Yeah.
Bull shark.
Bull
Bull
shark.
shark, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I'm just sending my
But those
parents
aren't that
pictures,
big. Those are like
every
4
single
feet,
day.
4.5 feet long. Aren't those kind
Correct,
of?
yeah.
they're
Yeah,
not-
they were not that
I
big.
mean, they
but
weigh
I think-
like 100 pounds, but they're not, 1,000-pound sharks.
No, they're not like the great whites you see in Santa Cruz.
And
but-
this is what you send your parents pictures of.
yeah, so every day they're just like, where do you live that this is all happening? I was like, here in Florida in our backyard. Like,
Zoo.
literally, this is
Yeah.
where
Animal Kingdom.
it was. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
All right,
is,
so it's such a good topic of conversation. Let's talk about planes, Airbnbs, and Amazon. You've done all of them. All right, so let's talk
Wait, planes?
about it's planes,
Oh.
trains, and automobiles. It's
I was like,
figure of
I
speech.
wouldn't
Planes,
put it
trains,
past
Need some
her.
automobiles.
poetic
When did you
license
invent?
here.
When did you
All right,
invest
so let's
in
talk
Jet
about
Suite here,
your
Ella?
experience with Turo and renting the minivan that disappeared. Let's talk
Oh my
about that
God, you
one.
had one
That's a great
disappear?
story.
yeah. So we have 2 cars now in Turo. But the minivan, there were certain things on Turo. So Turo, for those that don't know, it's like a platform like Airbnb. It's your own car, but you rent it out to tourists. Here in Orlando, there is no shortage of tourists. So we bought this brand new minivan. We put it on Turo. I didn't know there were certain settings that you should probably put on, like you should limit the mileage people use on your car. I
Oh,
did not
wow.
do that.
Okay.
So they had unlimited mileage on the van, and this guy drives it up to Indiana. We had equipped the
Indiana?
van with a kill switch, so and a tracker, so we knew where it was. And I just remember renting it to him. The next morning, I'm watching the tracker go up through Georgia. And yeah, so it doesn't stop. And he gets up there. Basically, he took the minivan to take his son to college. Then he abandoned it and flew back to Florida.
Wow.
And we had to have it towed all the way from Indiana.
Towed?
Oh my God.
Towed.
Was it not drivable?
Towed. No. Well, the kill switch was activated, but I had offered, I said, well, let me just go drive up there and go get my own car. And Turo kept assuring me, no, ma'am, we got it. Like, you're already covered. It's covered by the insurance and this and that. 2.5 weeks later, a very dirty minivan shows up on our driveway. It was okay, but lesson learned, turn on the little switch.
Turn on the switch that says mileage is limited.
Yeah,
experiences may vary. So where are you at with Turo right now? Do you have 2? You said you have 2?
We do have 2. The plan was I wanted a fleet of 10, maybe even 10 minivans, but the market became a little saturated, and I don't know. We're still waiting for our turn to build the fleet up.
We have tons of entrepreneurs, side hustle people on this call. Like, the reason why I wanted you on this call, Ella, is because you are not making $10 million a year on Turo and Airbnb. You're not some movie star, superstar success farm person that has 3,000 employees. You're an entrepreneur who is trying things, and you're having some success in bite-sized pieces, and those bite-sized pieces add up, right? You did, I won't ask you to go into the numbers, but I know it was more, I knew what you were making was more than most 2-income families in the United States, and that is with with styrofoam packing peanuts and tape and boxes in your house doing Amazon drop shipping, but it worked. You were making money with it. It was successful. You make money with your Turo. I mean, you're making your car payments plus the platform fees and all that stuff. You're paying taxes on money you're making from Turo. You're paying taxes on the money that you made from your Airbnb rental arbitrage. So here's what I would ask you is give us 3 smart things about somebody. Let's say they're making 120 grand a year in their job. They're paying 30% tax and they want to make $500 a month. 3 smart things about what they could learn from what you've been doing for the last 10 years that they could go out and apply this weekend with limited amount of money, limited amount of risk. What would you do? You want to make $500 a month. You got 90 days to do it. Go.
Get into a city that has a lot of tourists, like Orlando, Miami. And there is no shortage of information out there to position yourself in the right places. But it is all, first piece of information, a lot of research, a lot. Find the gurus, find the people that are successful and copy them. Don't jump in all the way and put all your eggs in that basket because you don't even know what that basket's about. There's a lot of things that, like I said, like, turning on the mileage counter or restriction that I could have tweaked at the beginning had I spent more time researching. So that's one. 2 is absolutely leverage things. So the Airbnbs that we have, we don't own. We are the long-term renters from a landlord. And then we just turn around. We have their permission and we turn around and we do short-term rentals with them. So should the market tank for whatever reason, we just exit and we basically lose a rent deposit and that's it. As opposed to losing our shirt if we had a mortgage.
Yeah.
And now we're stuck with a property that we can't offload.
And how many, last I talked with you, it was kind of touch and go for a while there with all the repairs for the one Airbnb that you were doing. But are you doing 2 of those right now?
Yeah. Yes. We had 3, but we're down to 2.
You had 3. But
if you want to make quick money, honestly, the rental arbitrage is by far the best.
Rental arbitrage?
Best thing to do.
I mean, can you make, $1,000 a month within your first 90 days?
Yes.
Wow.
Absolutely.
$1,000 a month. And think about there's a lot of people. $1,000 a month is not pocket change. I don't care if it is Florida or wherever. I mean, if you drive Uber 10 to 15 hours a week, you're going to barely make $1,000 a month. It doesn't pay that well. Like you got to work. The guys I know that make $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, they're working 60-hour weeks at Uber.
You know me, I'm all for the Airbnb plan.
Yeah, the retail arbitrage. But again, you have to look at a place that's really busy that has lots of short-term rentals.
And there are certain things, 4 bedrooms versus 3 bedrooms, things that are by a pond versus by a lake, proximity to Disney versus proximity to Universal. Like there's all tiny little nuances that make an Airbnb successful.
Wow.
So that's 2, 1 and then leverage.
1 is research,
and then leverage, and then
2
what's
is
number
leverage.
3?
For me, and I don't know if this applies to all entrepreneurs, I'm pretty sure it's not, and I think Jeff knows this about me and Edwin, have a dynamic or have a partner or an accountability partner or a husband that will be your counterbalance, because a lot of times I hit the panic button, I get really emotional, and he's the one that calms me down and sets me straight, and he's very logical and methodical, and then we can proceed that way. On the other hand, he tends to hold back and tends to be too conservative, and I'm the one kind of pulling onto the cart and trying to get us to move forward. So neither is right or wrong, but you definitely have to have that balance and just someone to bounce ideas off of that is not exactly like you. That would be not a good choice.
Yeah, you don't want someone that's just going to agree with you the entire time.
Yeah,
good idea. Yeah, you need some.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Jessica and I are exactly the same in that she's the activator,
whole, push-pull,
trying to do stuff, and I'm the more conservative kind of CFO accountant type just by nature. But it works. Like it does work between the two of us. You need both. She's fine with us spending every last dollar for me to go play professional golf for 10 years. And I really wanted to do that. I wanted to do it for the first 10 years that we were married. I wanted to do it. And then finally the money started coming in. we blew it all. We blew all the money going and doing that we had made in the startups and the big commissions and stuff. But I think that Jessica has a theme, a strategy theme that says this guy knows how to make money. And as soon as he either gets this over the hump and can make money with it, he'll do well. Or if he backs off of it, he'll go find something else to do to make money, and he won't have the regret of not having tried that. And so I don't know if I've ever said that publicly, but I'm very grateful to you for backing me in a dream that I always had, which now that I look at it percentage-wise, I literally had no shot at ever making it with the amount of time that I had left in my physical body to be able to do it.
As you were talking, I was thinking like, well, YOLO, and it is YOLO because it is you only live
YOLO?
once.
Oh, you only live once. Okay.
But it's more than that. I am an advocate for learning and ongoing education.
That's right.
And I think that our American school system needs to be turned upside down. I think that, I will be an advocate until I die for ongoing education and learning. And what I saw through you is 10 years of a desire to learn. And whether you're learning how to become a better professional golfer or a golfer, period, whether you're learning how to do startup companies, whether you're learning how to, and you've asked me multiple times, Jeff, you've said, what is it that attracted you to me? Like when we were first married, you always bring it back to, I had no money, I was unemployed at the time.
Piece of junk car,
I
lived
living
with my
at
parents.
my parents. Like, why did you
No job.
And what do I always say?
That's my guy. Yeah.
What do I always say? I always say, well, you had a willingness to learn. You want to learn. You've always wanted to learn. And far be it from me as your spouse to say, no, you can't do that, or no, you shouldn't do that. Especially when I saw you getting we happened to find a golf coach, and you were going 5 days a week to be with the golf coach, and you're learning, and
5
you're like,
days a week for 10
you're
years.
like, how can I narrow my misses today? And we worked on, putting, and we worked on chipping, and like, money? I could care less about money, because money, you can be super lazy and you can not study, and money a lot of times will make people stop learning. They're done. They're like, I got the money. I don't need to even pick up. I've seen it in my own life. I've seen people stop picking up books, stop learning, stop listening, stop playing instruments.
Yeah.
And because they're not addicted to learning, they're addicted to making money, and then they get it and they feed that habit.
And they're satiated.
And then they're done. Yeah. And then they just sit around being high. It's like the people that have the, addiction to marijuana, and now they're just looking at the floating ceiling because they've got all the marijuana they can smoke. But for your case, you saw, and what I saw in you happening in those 10 years of striving to become a better golfer was you were getting addicted to the learning process. And if I had any kind of strategy from a wife angle, if you can get your husband, ladies, whoever's listening or watching, if you can get your husband addicted to learning, whatever it is, I don't care if it's like how to do a better fish hook thing with the bird, the feathers and all that. Ella probably knows, like
gator beating.
Get them learning. Encourage them to learn, because that will become the catalyst for every future endeavor that you continue to go through.
Yeah, and I was talking to that is so good,
Love
Jessica. I was talking to a guy today. Did I play professional golf? Yes. Did I make money at it? No. I spent tens of thousands of dollars, some of which I didn't even have, in order to go and try to compete. But I'll tell you, there was nothing like being in that first 45 minutes to an hour. I'd go make a couple of pars and maybe a birdie. I remember my friend Scott was caddying for me one time, and I chipped in for eagle on the first hole. I'm 2 under par through one. I'm more under par than there are holes played, right? I mean, that was incredible experience to be able to chip in from off the green and do that while my buddy's caddying for me, which was just amazing. And for the first hour and 15 minutes, I was actually in contention in this tournament. I stayed under par, close to par, and it's like the pressure, the feeling of the pressure just driving. It's like being 300 feet below the ocean, and you've got that triangular, there's a formula for it that says you have so many pounds per square inch based on the depth under the surface of your sinew and your your nervous system is just under incredible duress constantly, and to be able to learn how to operate at 300 feet below the surface with all that on top of you, even if it was a week or 2 weeks in between tournaments and I had to travel and all that money to spend to be able to put myself in the crucible like that for an hour was insanity.
You've talked about it in the past as it was a waste of money. To me, that sounds like the best investment I could ever make.
I never said it was a waste of money. I said we burned money. I said we blew it all. But to say that it was actually a waste, in that somebody could say, well, what did that actually yield? Well, I had a conversation a couple of hours ago with a friend of mine, and I was talking about putting 10 years in, hitting balls until my fingers bled and the cracks in my skin, I'd have to tape them up and let them heal for a couple days. I knew I couldn't hit past a certain level of hot spot and blisters in my hands because that would cost me 2 or 3 days of practice, which going into a tournament, I didn't want to just be putting because my hands were, so I'd actually have to back off before my hands broke, or I'd tape them before they got past a certain blister point. But in doing that for 10 years, while I'm, putting every last dollar that we can into savings so that I can make it to the next event. And I finished basically on the bottom of every single one of the PGA Tour sanctioned leaderboards. I was at the absolute bottom every single week for 10 years. But in doing that, the yield from it was understanding the concept of the chemical imprint of visualization. When people think of visualization, they think, oh, well, I need to picture my goals. I get my dream board and I put my dream board up there and I picture my goals and I put the picture of my house and the picture of my car. And we've done all that. We had a dream board in 2000. I got the car from that picture. I got the watch from that picture. I got the house from that picture. I got the kids from that picture. The little girl that we put up there finally 15 years later shows up in our life exactly like the little girl in the picture. Not like the first daughter that we had that didn't look like her, because I remember looking at our daughter and looking at the picture and I was like, no, we got another one coming because this one doesn't look like the picture that we have. So all of that, we did all that visualization stuff. But what I learned from playing golf is this. You have to imprint a chemical picture, not something that you think of visually, but something that you think of chemically, of what the feeling is of getting the win. You have to imprint that chemical image in your nervous system before you go do the thing that you're afraid of doing. Because if the chemical imprint of what you're about to go do is fear, you can hold the picture in there all you want, but that's not how your body, that's not how to communicate to the subconscious through pictures. The picture needs to have an emotional imprint, a highly charged, high oscillation, chemical reaction vibration going on with a lot of emotion, a lot of passion and drive and grit and sinew. You sit there and you think, I can feel it. I can feel what it's like in my mind. I can feel in my nervous system and my body the chemical reactions that should be taking place if I hit the shot the way that I can see that shot coming off, to the point to where if you don't hit it well, you actually feel great anyway, because the level of expectation of the shot coming off the way that you want it to is so high that you're almost in disbelief if the ball doesn't do what you expected it to do. That expectation, that what Andrew Huberman is going through, he's down the street from us, guy that's doing science studies down at Stanford as a doctor in neuropsychology related to dopamine and norepinephrine and cortisol, chemical levels in the blood, all of those things, the flushing of cortisol, the increase of dopamine as the hunger drug that says, when dopamine's present, you're hungry for success. It's not the hit that you get when you actually get the drug or the Diet Coke or the food or whatever. I think that's oxytocin. It's the
Ella might know.
It's the hunger. It's the striving for getting that piece of food in your mouth or that first hit of Diet Coke. That dopamine hunger. If you can attach that to the proper behavior that you're trying to get that over time will produce the results that you say you want that are up on that dream board, then it starts to become a chemical level addiction to chasing a repeatable success thrill. And what Huberman's tagline is, which I absolutely love, is make the touchdowns, but no end zone dance. In other words, when we celebrate and it's over the moon exciting and we allow this crack cocaine level high to come as a result of being successful, we've actually lost the momentum to keep the thing going and to double dip and to recharge like a turbocharger in a Porsche, like in a 911 or in my, I think my car's got turbos. I don't even know. But the turbo takes hot air with a high fuel mixture and it pushes it under high pressure back into the engine. That's how we need to be operating if you really want to be successful long term. Make the touchdowns, but no end zone dance. And the reason you don't want the end zone dance is because you don't want to dissipate that highly compressed dopamine hunger drug that says, hey, we still got three halves or three quarters left in the game. We got a full half left in the game. We need to go make 2, 3, 4 more touchdowns. But if it's like, oh, touchdown, and I'm 22 and I just got out of college and I'm doing the end zone dance and I'm excited and hey, social media post this and I'm going to spin the football on the ground. And then they run out of gas in the third quarter and they get smashed. And we end up seeing what happened to the Atlanta Falcons when Tom Brady came back, cool, calm, and collect. Okay, we're down by 4 touchdowns at the half in the Super Bowl. No problem. And then he comes back, he scores 4 touchdowns, ties it up in overtime, and beats them. Because make the touchdowns, but no end zone dance. Keep recycling that hunger drug for future wins. That's what I learned from paying the price to play golf for 10 years.
Well, when we were growing up, what we would have called that don't count your chickens before they're hatched.
Don't count your chickens. Yeah, exactly.
Stoic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more stoic. So,
well, I think that it signals it signals a finish. It's finishing it. It brings it to completion. It brings it full circle. And if you're still in the middle of a game, that's not
you
the
ain't
time.
Finished.
You're not done. You still got. There's a lot more work.
That's how I feel like we're at in our builds right now. I mean, I just went broke for my third time here, 2017, 18, 19, and 20. Took me 4 years to crash land that plane. But coming out of that in the last 2 or 3 years, like it's been a totally different experience building wealth for the fourth time. Don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I am an advocate for learning. And in every time, would I like to see your learning episodes come with money so that we could do more learning? It would just be learning at a higher level. It would just be, you know what I mean?
Show.
It would just be an addition. It would just be learning how to go from $1 million to $1 billion, or learning how to go from $1 billion to $1 trillion. Like there's no end when you have the proper understanding of seed time and harvest. Pastor Jessica's opening up right now, right? Seed time and harvest, sowing and reaping, and you become addicted to sowing, and you don't worry about the reaping because you know that reaping is a byproduct of sowing, and the more seed you sow, the more you're going to harvest, the more you're going to reap. But as long as you continue to focus on plowing that ground and learning, then like it's bound to happen. We've had this conversation before. A soldier's got to be if you've been identified as a soldier and you're on the battlefield and you get wounded, you get thrown into the triage in the little tent, they stitch you back up, and as soon as you are even a little better, you run back out there to the field and you get back to fighting, because a soldier is meant to be a soldier. And as human beings, we are meant to prosper. It's just in our DNA to be able to prosper. And when you understand sowing and reaping, it's the same as learning. And when you put the emphasis on the learning and you don't look at what the result of the learning is, and you just said, well, did you learn anything? Did you learn anything 10 years playing golf? Did you learn anything when the first business failed? Did you learn anything when the second business failed? Did you learn? Well, guess what? You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, which is continue to learn how to become better, do better, and see more into the future.
And that's exactly what's happening in the current situation. And Ella, we've had this conversation kind of off and on, but I can tell you with full belief now, a different level of belief, Jesus said to doubting Thomas, blessed are those who believe that haven't seen. And I can tell you, I'm blessed anyway. We're anointed anyway for success, but I've seen it now. I've seen it personally. I am walking into a situation at work where I'm there 60 days, 80 days in my new job, and I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. I keep waiting for the big black eye that we couldn't see underneath the makeup as to what's wrong with this business that's going to keep us from turning this around and selling it as a platform versus the onesie twosie products that we've been doing, but selling this business to larger clients. And there is no other shoe. It's just working. It's just putting your shoulder into the work, understanding what needs to be done. Like, I've been here almost 4 months. There's nothing that I don't recognize.
But
that's
there's
wrong
so
with the
much
business.
for you to learn, and that's what's awesome.
Yeah, there's lots to learn, but we're not learning how to do the basics that are necessary in order to make the business successful. We're learning the nuances of tax-related revenue recognition and value-added tax and constant currency and what withholdings, 1099 withholdings, like how is that done at scale in a $200 million SAP implementation of back office software that manages $16 billion a year of revenue and 37 million airline tickets? How is that done? Like that's the learning part of it, right? But the cultural, how do we go through cultural change management where we have folks on the edge of the country who are working 80, 90 hours a week, living in $3 million houses that they rent and having debt leveraged up to our butts? That's insanity from a work ethic perspective. And yet the heavy lifting for the business is being done in the center of the country where people have memberships to the community pool and they take vacations and they go fishing and they enjoy their life. But that's where the intellectual property and the tribal knowledge is. And so we don't want to come in from the edge of the country and say, hey, you're doing it wrong because you're not working hard. Hey, this 90% of the work is getting done by the people in the middle of the country, and they have their own culture. It needs to be respected. We need to be loving and lovely to these lovely people that have brought us this great asset that we can start working against. And so how do we gently nudge what we've seen as world-class software sales and software company performance, but do it in a way that's respectful to the current state and to the current culture? That's the kind of thing that we're learning. It's the nuance of saying, hey, I've been here before. I've done this so many times. This is going to be fun. But now we've already completed the compulsory part of the figure skating routine. Now we get into the electives. Now we get into costume design and music selection and where are we going to put our triple cell cows and our quads, and where are we going to have dance and artistry as the elements of creativity and the humanities in our figure skating routine that still needs to fit certain parameters in order for it to qualify for competition. So
that was a pretty good little
that was
reach
really
there.
good
I was like, wow, that was
It's called
great
a rant.
metaphor. Hey,
It's called a rant.
Hey, yeah, but your rants
There's
have
got to be a soapbox
metaphorical
around here
qualities.
somewhere because I've been standing on something. I don't really know what it is.
Well, I have a feeling that we're getting close to the time frame here.
Yeah,
and
by the
I'm
way,
sure...
we are at an hour and 1 minute.
Wow. See, Ella, we had plenty to talk about.
We did it. I told you we could do this, Ella. This is no big deal. But seriously, as we close, any questions? But just in generically, if you have a business question or an entrepreneur question for our next guest, and we can carry that question forward.
Wow, I have so many questions. I think one of the harder things as an entrepreneur is kind of like what Jessica brought up. Like, how do you take the lessons and then you scrap all the negativity and the heartbreak and the struggle and all of that and just say, well, that was just part of the lesson, and let's take the good stuff and then forget the rest. Like, what is the mechanics? So people just say so lightly, well, get yourself up and then just brush it off. I think especially for women, it's a little hard. But what is it? Is it visualization? Is it writing affirmations? Like, what can you actually do to get out of a rut, get out of a funk?
I will ask that question of our next guest, and
Yes.
you can tune in. I have my own answers for that, but I don't want to answer that question right now.
Yeah.
We'll answer it offline.
Little cliffhanger.
But let's leave a cliffhanger for our next guest. So,
All right.
absolutely
Bum, bum,
fantastic
bum.
episode, Ella. Before we go, I want to say that I heard 3 smart things from you. Do your research, make sure and use leverage if you can, and then try to have some form of dynamic partnership, and even if that's not with your spouse, because either they don't want to be involved in your business or they have their own business to run or
Or you're
what have
single.
you. Or if you're single, which is such a long time ago, I forgot to mention the single people. Sorry, all you single people out
That's
there.
right.
It's been a
Is it
while
not your
for me.
anniversary tomorrow or something?
Yeah, right? No.
Ours is in the summer, but
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly impressed in every conversation that we have about how bright and brilliant you are in your approach to things.
God.
I think that you continue to take action in areas where most people only dream, and sometimes that action comes back to bite you in the butt, and sometimes it ends up with vans that end up in Indiana, and other times it ends up with cash flow on the books and a balance sheet that continues to grow, which allows you to take more risk, right? Because that's kind of the great reward for success in entrepreneurship is you get to take more risks doing other cool projects, right? And it's a never-ending story, or never-ending process. So
thank
with
you,
that,
Ella, for being on the show today.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening. And we will have whatever links need to be at the bottom.
we'll send out links. And how can we reach you on social media if people
Are
want to
you
reach
on
out to you?
social media?
Yeah, are you on?
And not so much. No, I'm kind of taking a
Okay,
break.
so we'll keep everybody updated
Yes.
as Ella's business endeavors continue. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We love you, and we
Thanks
will
for
see
having
you
me.
next week. And Merry
Yep.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas is coming up here in a couple of weeks.
Y'all.
And Ella, go ahead and hold the line, and we'll wrap here formally, and then we'll debrief in a sec. But thanks for being with us on the Jeff Heilman
you.
Project, and we'll see you next time.